put up on the board, and if there's others, you can wing through them. All right, let me insert a few pages. All right, what letter's that one?
H
That's F, H, and J? I don't know who wrote that.
or K.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. All right, letter F. Here's letter F. They have the absolute value of the variable b equals negative 19. Okay? Absolute value of that equals negative 19. So here's what you need to ask yourself. Thank you. Can you take a value and plug it in and get a negative value out? So, like, even if I put negative 1 billion inside for b, the absolute value of negative 1 billion is 1 billion. Okay? So, this one doesn't have a solution because it's, oh, hello. Thank you much. Let's see. He's not here today. Do you need me initial again?
Yes.
There you go. So, being that there's nothing I can plug into on that. Being there's nothing I can plug in to get a result of a negative out, this has to have no solution for an answer. Does that make sense? Okay, and again, remember, the only time that I can get a negative out here if I have an absolute value is if I have a negative outside the absolute value, then it's asking for the opposite of the absolute value of something. Okay? We still don't know what letter that is? All right, I'll go to J. All right, letter J. We have 6 absolute value, 5p plus 4 minus 16 is equal to 20. Okay? So, best way to start this type of problem is get rid of everything around the absolute value. This absolute value sign is acting like it's a parentheses, so technically you could distribute over. I don't think that's the best move. So start moving things over and then divide by this to bring it over, and then we'll do the absolute value. And I think you'll find that'll work a lot better for you. Yeah.
So if you can distribute the
I
over,
wouldn't, and not in this case. I mean, because there's one scenario where I can think where it might goof you up, and I just want to make sure that you're good. So how I look at this right here is like being 6x equals 36.
Yeah.
So how would you solve that? Divide by 6. So look at that the same way. Let's divide both sides by 6. And then I get the absolute value of 5p plus 4 equals 6. So I still have an absolute value sign, correct? So how many problems do I need to create now? How many problems get created when I break it apart? 2, good. So one looks just like it. The other one, I take the less complex side and make it negative. Solve each, so this one I'll subtract 4 from both sides. So 5p equals 2, divided by 5. So one of my answers is 2 over 5. This one I subtract 4 from both sides. So I get 5p equals negative 10. Divide each side by 5. So I find that p is equal to negative 2. And so do we have an answer of 2 over 5 as well as negative 2? It looks like agony. Oh, agony. Letter N. Letter N. I won't go through all of them, but if you need extras. Let's see. During last year's volleyball season, the coach concluded that the number of points scored in each game could be written by the absolute value of x minus 7 equals 2. How many points were scored in each game? All right. So x minus 7 equals 2. So let's create 2 problems. Scratch that out. That's 7. So x is equal to 9. And I'm going to add 7. X is equal to 5. So
Number N.
yeah, letter N, yeah. So I think both answers are, you could apply, but I think that you could say that 9 points would be scored. And the reason I think that the 5 is kind of a goofy one is, I don't know. Which one was N? What did that come to? What is it? Top left, 5 and 9?
It was feet. Yeah.
Feet. At first I looked at it going 5 and 9 feet. That didn't make sense, but then I realized that we need to put feet in. So,
Tell us the riddle.
yeah, did you all get it? I don't have it written down. Did somebody get it written down? Go ahead.
It resulted in the thrill of victory and the agony of several wet feet.
There you go.
Randy just wrote that down.
Yeah. Are there any other questions from the homework? Yeah.
So I just have just a scenario for just Jay.
Okay.
So could you still do you can distribute, but then after that do adding on the other side?
Yes, you could.
Okay.
Now, what you have to be careful about when you distribute on that problem, you have this. So, are you just saying you want to have this? It could. What I want you to be careful of, though, is a lot of times if you distribute, when we teach you to distribute, you start thinking about, oh, I get rid of those now because I distributed, because it's acting like a parenthesis. That's what I was just trying to get you to steer clear of. That's why I wanted to kind of move fast.
Yeah.
Was there any other questions off the homework? Yeah? No? Maybe? Yeah.
Letter K.
Letter K.
Whoa, yes, letter K.
Okay, letter K. So we have the absolute value of C minus 24 is equal to 7C. Okay. So we can go ahead and create two problems. So I have C minus 24 is equal to 7C. That's our first problem. And then C minus 24 is equal to negative 7C. So let's see. If I subtract C for both sides, I get 6C here. So divide by 6. So C equals negative 4. And then on this one, let's subtract C. So we get to there. If I divide by negative 8, and so that gives me C is equal to 3. Okay. That it? Because it was negative 24 divided by 6.
Yeah.
Cool? All right, please make sure your name is on that assignment and hand that on forward. If you're handing in something late, that's fine as well. Just make sure your name's on anything you're handing in right now. Please.
Oh, Mr. You didn't check mine.
I didn't? Okay.
No, you didn't have to.
Oh, okay. This is period 2, right?
Yeah.
And will you grab yours, pass on the rest of the pile, please? Should be only one assignment in there unless you handed in multiple ones. Any more homework that I'm forgetting? So, prior to us taking some notes, I just want to talk to you all about something. I live right by Arapahoe High School, and my oldest is a sophomore there, and my youngest goes to Powell Middle School. And so right around in my neighborhood, we have you know, a lot of kids that go to Arapahoe, which you would expect. And so last night I got home after coaching my youngest daughter's soccer practice. I don't know, it was about 7:45, and I'm out front watering my flowers like I do each night. I like flowers, I'm sorry. I just worry. And but the dad from across the street came over and he goes, "Hey, I just want to let you know that one of their sons, they have two sons, and one's a sophomore and one's a senior at Arapahoe. One of their sons committed suicide yesterday. One of her friend at Cherry Knolls Park, which is not far from here. And so as a teacher, as a dad, and just as a human being, what really hurts me is, everyone says, "Oh gosh, was there warning signs?" How do you know? You always will sit there and look back going, "Yeah, it seemed like things, this or that was going on." But a lot of times people will say, "Hey, teachers are the first line of defense with kids," which a lot of times that's true. But please understand this: you are actually the first line of defense for your own safety and your friends. So if you know somebody who is struggling, or if you are struggling, it's okay to talk to an adult. And I just want you all to know this, and this comes right from my heart. If you're ever dealing with something that's way beyond what you want to deal with, find me. I don't care if I'm teaching. I don't care if I'm in the middle of something. You come to me and say, "Hey, Mr. Stirrup, I need to talk." That's kind of my key word going, you know what? Something going on in your life that's way more important than anything that I am doing at that moment in time. And I don't care if I don't get done with the curriculum of a math class or not. That doesn't matter to me. You all matter to me. And so, it's a subtle, horrible thing that's happening, and I know that my daughter's struggling with it. And, her freshman year, the girl who sat next to her in math class, committed suicide. And then, she knew this boy. She didn't know him well, but just knew who he was. And it's, the hard thing is when someone says, "Oh, your problems aren't that big of a problem," that's bull, because the problems that you all deal with, the things that are in your face every day, with Snapchat, Instagram, any of that stuff, you guys are getting the immediate, sometimes there'll be satisfaction going, "Oh, look at that." But on the opposite end, there is a lot of crap that comes down on you guys that you're dealing with that you shouldn't have to deal with. And I will never tell you that, "Oh, things aren't that bad." Because, in the mind of you, if you've gotten to a point where it's like, I need somebody to talk to, just know that my door is always open for you. And you just call me in my office, talk to me. If you tell me something that I can't help you through, I will guide you in the right direction of people who will help you. But please know this: of 22 years of teaching, fortunately here I have not lost any students. When I was at Chaparral, and 9 years I was there, I had 16 of my students that passed away, whether it was through suicide, murder, or a car accident. Yeah, murder. The hard thing is when you sit there and you have that empty desk where someone's at. The one that I had my last year, her name was Kim Hopkins. She took her own life. I had a pretty large classroom. It was really a wide classroom. It was about this deep, really wide, about twice as wide as this. And her desk stayed empty in every class period. Everyone knew that was Kim's desk. Don't sit there. And it was eerie. And it's just a hole. And it's a hole for people. So please, if you know that your friend's struggling, you know what, it's better that your friend is pissed off at you for a couple minutes because you told them than you at their funeral saying, shoot, I wish I would have said something. Please just take it from somebody who, one, I have kids, I get it. Two, I have been around kids for a long time. Just let me know, or let an adult know. I mean, because there's not anything that's so big that any adult's doing at this school that they wouldn't drop everything to ensure the safety of you. And that includes me, that includes Mr. Silva, that includes any of our teachers here. You know, if you walk into someone's room and say, hey, I need to talk to somebody, and they brush you off, you let me know. Because one, I'll be there to talk to you, and two, I'm going to rip into that teacher because they weren't here for the safety of a kid. Please give me your word. You know somebody, if it's you or you know somebody, I don't care if it's now or when you're a senior in high school or in between, let me know. And I will make sure you get to the safety, somebody to talk to. And I know that some of you have dealt with a lot in life, and I know some of you will sit there and look over going, why does that person have it so much better than me? I get it. And I'm not trying to point out that anyone has a problem. I'm just trying to say your problem that you might be dealing with or your friend's dealing with is big. And a person taking their own life is not the answer. Because, you know, all of you make me who I am. And if I lose one of you, part of me is gone too. Okay? Alright, stand up, shake it out real quick, because we need to get to math. Didn't mean to hit you with hard, but I just wanted you all to be aware of that. Get a shake down. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Alright. Sorry, you guys already knew I was a little loopy. And that's recorded if you need to go back and re-listen. Okay, problem number one. We're solving for x. We've done this before. This is review, yes?
Yes.
So the first step would probably be subtracting 8 from either side. I would think. And then the next step would be dividing each side by 2. And going with that. Yeah. That's pretty straightforward. I think everyone's like, yeah, I'm right there with you, right? Okay. So, what's different about this problem versus this problem? Yes, sir.
They have two variables.
Two variables. I have an x variable and I have a y variable. So if I were to solve for x, that means I'm trying to get x all by itself. I'm isolating the variable. In this case, we happen to have two variables. Does everyone agree that x and y are two very different variables?
Yes.
Yes, they're next to each other in the alphabet, but they represent two different things. So if I wanted to get x all by itself, and let's just kind of go back to our, let's go back to our, what we had started with in the beginning of the year. I'll put my dotted line. So what I do on one side of that dotted line, I have to do the other. The dotted line represents the equal sign. And again, I know I got away from this a little bit, but we're coming back to a newer concept that involves multiple things. So let's look at it. So I want x to stay alone. So I'm going to subtract 8y from both sides. And by doing that, that will move that 8y to the opposite side. And that'll cancel this, so I get 2x. That'll be equal to 12 minus 8y. Now this is where students are like, oh, shouldn't I have negative 8y plus 12? Sure, but is it okay to leave it like that? Yeah, leave it just like that. So how are 2 and x being held together right now?
Multiplication.
Multiplication. What does multiplication? Division. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide everything by 2. So I get x equals 12 over 2 is? What is negative 8y divided by 2? Yeah.
Negative 4y.
Yeah, negative 4y. So do I have my variable by itself?
Yep.
I sure do. Okay, and yes, you could have had this as x equals negative 4y plus 6, but this is fine as well. Okay, we have x all alone. Okay, Does that make sense? May I move to the next slide? Is there any questions what we have up here so far?
So if you do come across an x and a y value in the same area,
Uh-huh.
you do you subtract or anyway you do both sides of the y value,
Mhm.
both sides, and then you get the
Depending on what letter you want to solve.
Okay.
So it could say, hey, solve for y, which means this one we could have solved for y as well. And if we solve for y here, I'd subtract 2x and then divide it by 8. Okay? May I move forward?
Yep.
All right. We can rewrite an equation to get a variable alone using the same rules we use to solve singular variable equations. So solving just for x or solving just for y, those are the only variable. Our goal is to get the given variable alone on one side of the equal sign. Okay? Now, this is a skill that you will utilize a lot in science. Okay? A lot of things in science, you're substituting in something for something else. You've solved for Fahrenheit, so now you can plug in that Fahrenheit temperature into another equation, or Celsius, depending upon what you're working on, or Kelvin if you're doing absolute zero. These are things that allow you to start solving for variables when you have multiple equations, which is very useful and helpful. All right. There's way too much information up there for me to even start going to. But anytime you have a letter equals a number or a letter equals an equation, you can sub that number or that equation in to another equation for that letter, which we'll start getting to. E equals MC squared. PV equals nRT. Does anyone know what PV equals nRT is? It's a chemistry term. It's the ideal gas law. Pressure and volume are P and V. N is the constant. It's 0.0821. And then R is the reaction. T is the time. And then they got bored. They actually had to write PV equals nRT twice because they ran out of stuff. And then this one, F equals 1.8C plus 32. This equation. This is actually how you convert. If you were given Celsius, you would plug your Celsius or temperature in here, and that would allow you to convert it back to Fahrenheit. So, just a few. And then equals MC squared. That's all Einstein's favorite thing. Energy equals the weight of mass times the speed of light squared, which means that if you take this pen, and you take it down to its prime components, the mass of that pen times the speed of light squared is how much energy that this pen would be able to release as far as if you were to break apart all of the electrons and break apart the nucleus, so the protons and neutrons. So atomic reaction, basically. Atomic reaction really can happen on anything. Why do we use plutonium and uranium? Because they're really big and you can actually fill them with more neutrons and then it releases a large amount of energy. But that's a whole different thing. Hey, this one says solve for y. Solve for y. So if I wanted to get y all by itself, what does it look like I should do with the 2x to get y all by itself?
Subtract the 2x.
Yeah, subtract the 2x. Absolutely. So sometimes it's set up nice and simple where you just have one move, those cancel, and I get this. And of course, I want you to please realize that this and this are the exact same thing. Which one do I prefer? Your choice. Unless I tell you to put it in standard form. This is called standard form. Actually, this is not called standard form. This is called slope-intercept form. But if you give me this answer versus this answer, they're both correct. Just make sure your signs. So if it's negative, it stays negative. If it's positive, it stays positive. May I move forward? All right, now we're going to solve for y again. So this has a little bit more. So I want to start getting y by itself. So get y alone, what do I have to do?
Minus 3.
Subtract, well, if I want y to stay there,
Oh, wait, subtract 3x.
subtract 3x, and then there's one more move that we'll have to do. So the last one is we just had to move one variable, but on this one we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. That cancels this. 3y is equal to 9 minus 3x. How are 3 and y being held together right here? Multiplication. What does multiplication?
Division.
Division. So I'm going to divide everything by what number? 3. That cancels that. So y equals 9 over 3 is how much? 3. And then what happens here? It just becomes x, so minus x, right? Or minus 1x if you wanted to. So there's your answer. Okay, and of course you could have your answer like this. Either answer, again, it's going to be your choice. Seem okay so far? Doing right on time? It's 9:50. Okay, we're good. Yeah.
How would you know to subtract y, the y value or the x value if they're in the same
So it'll tell you what to solve for. This one said, hey, we want y alone.
Okay.
So that's why you're starting moving it over.
So if it's solve for
If it said solve for x, you'd subtract 3y. Cool? Good question. Huh. Fractions are our friend, right? And we showed a way to get rid of fractions. So what would the very first step be that doesn't have anything to do with getting a variable alone? What should I do to get rid of that 2 as a denominator? What should I multiply everything by?
2.
2. So I'm going to multiply everything by 2 over 1, which is the same thing as 2. So I'm going to multiply this by 2 over 1, and this by 2 over 1, and this by 2 over 1. Now I'm doing that just so I don't have to deal with a fraction. So that gives me 6x. Those cancels, that just gives me plus y. Right? Does that make sense? 1y and y are the same thing. And then equals 12. Yeah, it looks all right, right? If I wanted y all by itself, what's the only step I have to do now? Subtract 6x. So by us clearing the denominator, God made it a little easier for us. So if I subtract 6x from each side, y equals 12 minus 6x. Or you could have y equals negative 6x plus 12. So again, your choice, which one you want to have for an answer. People good? Word. Oh boy. Okay. All right. I think we're okay with this. Can we go through slow? So what we'll do is, let's do this. We're going to write down each step that we're going to do. So let's do this. What does that represent? The dotted pink equal sign. Right? That's all. All right. So I want to get y by itself. Does it appear I have y on either side?
Yeah.
All right. So ready? We need to pick a side. Left or right side? Let's see. Anybody?
Right side.
You want right?
Right.
So you want to get the y over here, or you want the y over here?
I mean, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. I'm just asking you which one you want it on. So
Right
you
side.
said right? So you want it over here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if I want it over on the right side, so our first thing is we said pick a side. Okay. Make sense? I mean, it's not really a mathematical term. It's just so we decided right side. So it looks like if I subtract 6y from both sides, it's going to leave 4x minus 11 on this side. And then on this side, I'm going to get 2x. What's 4y minus 6y? Negative 2y minus 9. Okay, so let's just pause for a moment. Let's pause for a moment. We want to isolate y by itself. By us, at this point in this problem, are we able to say that we have y on one side of the equation versus the other?
Yes.
Feel okay? Now, some of you might be going, well, why did we not move the 4y over? Well, because I gave you a choice. And the one I heard is let's get it onto the right side. So we have it on the right side. If you'd solved it the other way, your answer's still going to be the same. All right, so I want y by itself. So I want this by itself. So what are some things I can do? What would be the next thing I could do? Yeah.
Minus 2x.
Subtract 2x. Move the x, okay? So this is going to cancel. So on this side, I have 2x because 4x minus 2x minus 11 is equal to, these x's are gone, right? So then I get minus 2y minus 9. Okay, it's starting to clean up a little bit more. Next step, maybe move the 9. So how do I move the 9? Add it, good. Take that. That's our hands up too, so thank you. All right, so on this side, I'm going to get 2x. What's negative 11 plus 9? Negative what?
2.
Negative 2, okay. Equals negative 2y, because this canceled out, right? We're getting pretty close. And then divide by what to get y by itself? Close.
What? 2.
What?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. Good. Divide that by negative 2, divide that by negative 2, divide that by negative 2. Let's move it down. So this is going to cancel. So what am I left with over here? Y. And then what is this reduced to? Negative x or negative 1, right? And what does this reduce to? Huh? Positive 1, good. Do I have y by itself? Is that what they'd asked us to do? So I could keep it like that, or I could make it like this. Keeping all the signs. It's your choice again, whichever way you'd like to do it. Could be.
Oh.
But I just wanted to go through it slow enough that we feel comfortable. We okay?
Yeah.
May I move on? It looks like I almost done it. Might have 2 more slides. Is that right?
3.
3? Okay. Can I move forward, or is anyone still copying that down? Yeah.
I have one question. So, if it's solved for y, like the last one was, you would divide, when you're at the dividing part, you would divide the y value.
Whatever's attached to the y. Yep, you're exactly right. Anyone know what this equation is? F equals ma, F equals ma. Yeah.
Force equals mass times acceleration.
Yeah, force equals mass times acceleration. So it's something that's used in physics. How are m and a being held together on this problem? Multiplication. So they want us to get a by itself. So what do you feel I should do to both sides to get a by itself? Go ahead.
Divide by n.
Yeah, divide both sides by m. Good deal. So this will cancel this, so it gives me a on this side equals f over m. Okay? Or you could write it like this. And again, your choice how you would like to write it. Yeah, but yeah, man. Huh. So force equals mass times acceleration. That's definitely something you'll see in physics. I'll tell you what, physics is a cool class. Don't let, if you ever take it in high school, we had an excellent physics teacher here, but in college too, oh man, I love physics. You know, physics is how I knew I wanted to be a teacher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was TAing for one of the engineering teachers when I was in the engineering program at Arizona State, and his name was J.D. Mildrew, Dr. Mildrew, and he came to me one day and he goes, "Hey, can you go cover?" Because I was working in the tutoring center as well. He goes, "Can you go cover my physics class?" So here I'm at 20 years old with a bunch of freshmen in college, so they're 18, 19, 20. So I walk into this lecture hall and there's 500 people in there. And he just tells me a topic to lecture on, so I'll go in there and just wing a lecture. And I'm started talking, I look up towards the top and I was like, "What's Dr. Mildrew doing? He's just sitting up the top." He came down and he goes, "You know what? He's not even frustrated with the engineering program. You ain't an engineer, pal. You can be a teacher." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And I was like, "Seriously, you just conducted 500 kids do physics, and you didn't even prepare for a lesson." He goes, "You're spot on." I'm like, "Okay." So I switched. I never looked back. It's kind of cool. So, kind of fun. All right, solve for W. So P is equal to 2 times L, that's a lowercase l, plus 2 times W. Anyone know what this goes to? Might have seen it. Yeah, what do you think?
I think it's gonna be 2W,
No, don't solve it. What does this equation go with? What do we solve with it?
W, solving W.
We are solving W. What would I use this equation for? Yeah.
You're going to divide 2.
You're right. You're telling me all the right ways how to start solving it. But if I just gave you this equation, any idea what I would use this equation for? Yeah.
Perimeter equals length times 2 and width times
There you go. So this is for to find the perimeter of a rectangle. Perimeter is equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Because a rectangle, you have a top and a bottom, and a side and a side. They have to be the same. So this is what is used for a rectangle. So let's go through this problem. Let's see. I want W all by itself. All right. So if I want W by itself, how would I move this 2L over to this side? Go ahead.
You subtract 2.
Yeah, there you go. Subtract 2L. So I get P minus 2L equals 2W. How are 2 and W being held together? They're being multiplied, so what undoes it? Division. Sweet. I divide this by 2, this by 2, and this by 2. So I'm going to find that W is equal to P over 2. Can I reduce this one? What does that reduce to? Negative what? Negative L. Good. So that's W. Or I could make it look like this. Your choice. Yeah, it's a lowercase L.
Oh, I thought it was a 1.
Yo.
Did it subtract the 2L? Or,
Yeah, so if I subtract the 2L, this cancels with that.
Yeah.
And then it moves over. The reason it's subtraction is because it's 2L, which is positive. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, so your homework, which you guys are doing awesome to get done, is pages 21 and 22. So, guys and girls, just know this. If some of you might have a late assignment or two, hand them in. You get half points for it. But so what? Half points better than no points. So these are just all solving. So remember, if 2 letters are next to each other, they're being multiplied together. Sweet. Everyone feel okay? Yeah.